Kagurabachi is so good, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not. I never have pretended that. But start reading it. If you aren't already, you're missing out on absolute peak week to week to week. It's got the art, it's got the hype, it's got the writing, it's the full package. So read Kagurabachi, but let's get into chapter 84. All right, so chapter 84 is titled The Wounded, and we pick up with Samura and Chihiro staring each other down, and Samura says, "Break the Sanuchi." And he thinks to himself that the Enten is the only enchanted blade Rokuhira made after the war, an enchanted blade capable of destroying the other enchanted blades. That is the kind of thing Rokuhira would think of, but. And then out loud he says, "Get real. This is pure fantasy. Even against Tobemune, you haven't as much as nicked it." And Chihiro says, "This is just the beginning." And Samura thinks back to when he was speaking to Chihiro as a young kid. And he says to him, "You aren't trying to become a swordsman, are you?" And young Chihiro says, "No, I want to be a swordsmith, like my dad." We then cut back to Samura in the present, and he says, "Even if you did have that power, this burden is from the past. It's not yours to shoulder." But Chihiro cuts him off and just screams, "I'm Kunishige Rokuhira's son." And Samura just says, "I see." And then in an instant, the two of them spring into action and are clashing in a flurry of black feathers and speed. And Chihiro thinks to himself, he's moving even faster now. I've never felt this level of ferocity from him. He's finally going for the Enten. The two continue to clash back and forth, trying to get one up on one another. And we see that while they're clashing, suddenly Chihiro appears behind Samura. And Samura thinks to himself, that's not speed alone. What he just did. Don't tell me. We then get a full page panel of the two of them clashing with a centerpiece of a single crow feather and the goldfish, implying that Chihiro has mimicked once again Samura's crow ability. As the two are clashing blades, Samura thinks it's the same as crow. Is that a fundamental power of the Enten? Or, and he thinks back to when Chihiro sliced through one of his crow feathers earlier in the fight. Aka. It absorbed Tobemune's crow without breaking the flow. He then swapped to Chihiro's internal monologue where he thinks to himself, I feel it. I feel how much I'm synced up with the Enten. If I can't even scratch the Tobemune with Mr. Samura wielding it, breaking the Sanuchi is going to be a far-fetched fantasy. So I'll prove it. And then we get a flashback to when Samura says, just the Swordmaster and I have to die. It's the best and only way. But he thinks to himself, the Enten's power. And then out loud, he screams at Samura, I'll show you how you can live. The two of them continue to clash, with Chihiro thinking to himself, I can do this. And Samura just says, this is a joke. And the paneling here is beautiful as they are fighting. And Chihiro is sweating and he's like, are you going to teleport again? And Samura says, enough. It's time for you to submit. We then get a full page panel of the two of them crossing blades, except this time it's too much for Chihiro to handle, and Samura sends him flying down a staircase, having cut his hand and forcing him to drop the Enten. And Chihiro thinks to himself, Gah! He hits so hard, but I have to keep going. And he goes to pick up his sword, but his hand is like mangled. It's been cut so badly. And so he's sitting there like wincing in agony. Amuro thinks to himself, good, he shouldn't be able to wield his blade anymore. Then out loud he says, again, this is a fantasy. It's over. Then cut to a flashback of Chihiro and the Masumi in a cafe at some point discussing, with Chihiro saying, when Samura wields the Tobemune, he has no blind spots. And Ro says, just how do those feathers work? And Chihiro says, well, I think it's similar to Enten's goldfish. They can read the shape of anything they touch in minute detail. And with regards to the surrounding environment, I think they can also detect temperature, sound, airflow, all giving him a natural sense of the space. And Ro says, so if those feathers don't detect us, we might be able to evade him. And Moku says, the Masumi's stealth techniques enable us to conceal heat, sound, noise, and even hostile energy. We're able to eliminate nearly all traces of our presence to blend into the environment. And Sumi adds, even if he could detect us faintly by our physical displacement of the air, without vision, for Mr. Samura, the Masumi might as well be ghosts. We then get this gorgeous spread of Ro, Sumi, and Moku all like phasing in as if they were like made of some ethereal energy or flames, representing this ghost-like presence they have. The three of them just all appear around Samura. He had no idea that they were there, and they're thinking to themselves, unless he focuses on us intently, we can vanish, and we will use that to strike and disappear. And Ro thinks, in this battle of enchanted blades, we alone have the ability to intercede. It's in this moment that we see Iori and her classmate Ikura walk up on this battlefield as well. And Chihiro realizes this is his chance. And he says, Aka Suzaku. Samura hears him say that and he thinks, Suzaku, I knew it. He's replicating my powers. He's trying to heal his hand. But Suzaku is brand new to him. He can't master that skill instantly. That wound took out bone, not just flesh. So it'll take 10 to 20 seconds at the very least. The Masumi are trying to buy him time. We then see Ro phase in behind Samura and say, why so anxious? And Ro thinks to himself, with Suzaku, you could heal your vision. And with sight, the Masumi would be powerless against you. And yet, and then out loud he says, you're afraid. You're afraid to open your eyes to a future in which you go on living. Samura just coldly replies, silence. And he thinks back to the time when he and Iori did live together and just all of the struggles she went through with the graffiti, her hair falling out from stress, and that fear he has that she might one day take her own life from bearing the burden of his sins. And he screams out loud, I already know what that future looks like. And then Samura just unleashes like this blast of energy, it feels like, as all three Masumi are kind of like shunted away from him. And the narrator says, the Masumi are Samura's strongest possible adversaries. Even so, they only managed to hold him for under 3 seconds. A mere moment. And Samura thinks to himself, no time to heal. Sorry. And then Ro screams out, no, you're failing to see something important. We then see that Chihiro is already behind him as the narrator continues, a mere moment, enough time to regrip the sword. And we see Chihiro is clenching his blade with blood pouring out from his hand. Simultaneously, energy is pouring off from the sheath of the Enten as he preps this EI White Purity style. And Samura thinks to himself, he didn't heal. He's not trying to recover. He's pouring it all into an attack. And then we get this double panel of Iori's face and Chihiro's face. And Chihiro screams, we don't care how slashed up we get. Samura defends and the two of them clash once more, except now the Enten is starting to spark and crack Tobemune, and that's where the chapter ends. Gosh, man, Kagurabachi is so good, and go read this one yourself if you haven't, because the paneling is so good. The art is so good. Like, I think my favorite panel amongst a sea of amazing ones is this one of Chihiro gripping the sword, where it's like paralleled that he is like bursting with blood while the Enten is bursting with energy, and like the two of them are mirroring each other, kind of showing the strengthening of their bond. And God, I love this chapter, man. That Masumi panel where they're fading in like ghosts, so good. It's so good, man. The writing, it's rare. It's rare that you have the great art, the great story, the great writing, the great characters. Kagurabachi is it, man, and I'm here for it. And I just gotta say, I love Samura's sight puns, saying I see all of the time. It just never gets old. But I just love what they're doing with this, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. I maybe over exaggerated the crack. Tobemune isn't cracking by any means, but like that first spark is there. That's what that last panel was emphasizing. Like it is starting to break, if you will, but it's not like it's cracked and it's over with or anything yet. But this may be proof enough for Samura to realize. And so like, will this get through to him, or is the sword going to have to full on break? I don't want to just repeat what I've said last chapter, but it's interesting to see where they're going to go from here, because no matter what, I still don't see Samura making it out of this arc alive. So I'm just wondering how this is going to play out. Also, I'm curious exactly how the Akka stuff is working, which we called it, by the way, that at the end of the last chapter, he was Akka crowing to retrieve his sword. He used crow again in the clash with Samura, and then he obviously used Suzaku, right? And I guess, I mean, we don't know that Samura has been using Suzaku on himself amidst these clashes. Perhaps he has, and thus Chihiro Akka'd Suzaku at one point during one of their clashes. But to me, it's just reading as if when Chihiro Akka'd the feather in order to copy Crow, like it's still just that same Akka. So I feel like this is showcasing how Chihiro is evolving with his sorcery because now he, at one single point of absorption, if we can call it that, he's been able to use multiple sorceries. Like he used Crow more than once, and now Suzaku, all from one Akka, if that makes sense. That's at least how I'm interpreting it right now. But I would love to hear what y'all think about this. Like, do you think there were multiple Akkas and they just weren't called attention to? Like, again, during one of their clashes, Samura was presumably healing himself or something, and Chihiro copied it then, and that's when he did it? Or do you think it was all from the one feather? I think the one feather is cooler, but it could be the other way too, I guess. Let me know y'all's thoughts. Anyways, y'all, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you for watching, and come join the Discord. Come talk Kagurabachi with us there, but I'll see you in the next one.